Alexander Grant stood at the supermarket checkout. His card was declined. Third time in a row. The line behind him grew. People started whispering. Someone scoffed. The cashier looked at him with poorly hidden contempt. A billionaire whose name decorated skyscrapers couldn't pay for $23 worth of groceries. His face burned, his hands trembled. Just yesterday he was signing contracts worth millions. Today he stood before a crowd of strangers, helpless, humiliated. His money was somewhere out there, in the clouds of digital accounts. Here, in the bright light of the supermarket, it meant nothing, absolutely nothing. The woman behind him sighed loudly. A man muttered something about rich people. A teenager filmed the scene on his phone. Alexander saw the smirks, heard the whispers, felt his golden cage crumbling, that same cage of power and prestige where he hid from the world. Now it became the prison of his shame. He tried to explain some technical glitch. The bank blocked accounts. The words sounded pathetic, even to himself. The cashier silently moved his groceries aside. Mechanical movements, indifferent. He was just an obstacle to her, another loser holding up the line. Alexander turned to leave. Burning shame flooded him from inside. This wasn't just the shame of poverty. This was the shame of absolute helplessness. He, used to solving any problem with one phone call, couldn't handle a small thing. $23, a laughable amount, negligible, but insurmountable. Loneliness covered him like a wave. He was always alone at the top. Proud of it. Didn't need anyone. Surrounded by hundreds of people at receptions, he remained isolated. Now, in this supermarket, among dozens of strangers, this loneliness became tangible, cold, cutting. Something inside broke. Not the card, not the account. Something more important. His confidence that money solves everything. That power protects from everything. That he's above ordinary people with their ordinary problems. All of it crumbled to pieces, right here, between shelves of canned goods and freezers. Anger began to rise. Rage at the bank. At the system. At these people laughing at him. At himself. For what? For forgetting cash? For being in this situation? For feeling worthless? He clenched his fists, wanted to scream, wanted to explain to them all who he was, that his fortune exceeded the annual budget of a small country, that he could buy this supermarket and the whole block. But the words stuck in his throat. Because here, now, it didn't matter. Then, he heard a quiet voice. Childish. A girl about 7 years old stood nearby, thin in a worn jacket, holding out a handful of change. Coins glistened on her palm. 25 cents, 50 cents, $1 in crumpled bills. Her eyes looked serious. No mockery, no pity. Just the desire to help. Alexander froze. The world around slowed down. The noise of the supermarket faded. He looked at this small hand, at the coins that were probably all she had. She was giving them to a stranger, a man in an expensive suit who had just embarrassed himself in front of everyone. Something inside him trembled, cracked, began to melt. The ice he had surrounded his heart with over years of chasing money, power, success. This ice met warmth, tiny, but incredibly powerful. The warmth of selfless kindness. He dropped to his knees, found himself at eye level with the girl. For the first time in many years, he looked someone straight in the eyes, not from above, not through the prism of status, just human to human. His throat tightened, his eyes moistened. When was the last time he cried? The girl smiled, the simple, open smile of a child. Without calculation, without expecting a reward. She just wanted to help, because she saw someone needed help. Everything so simple, so pure, so human. Alexander took the coins. His fingers trembled. The metal was warm from her hand. He squeezed them in his fist, felt the weight, physically negligible, enormous in meaning. These coins weighed more than all his billions, because they were given from the heart. He couldn't speak, only nodded, tried to smile through tears. The girl nodded back and ran to her mother. The woman looked at her daughter with pride, then turned her gaze to Alexander. There was no judgment in her eyes, only understanding. Alexander stood up. Paid. The coins rang on the counter. This sound burned into his memory forever. He took his bags, left the supermarket, got in his car, and broke down crying, for the first time in 30 years. He didn't cry from shame, not from humiliation. He cried from realization, from the fact that a little girl showed him what he had lost. Humanity, the ability to see others, the desire to help just because. Without benefit, without calculation. His life was built on numbers, profit, losses, assets, liabilities. He measured people by their usefulness, built relationships on mutual benefit. Even charity was a tool for image, for taxes, for connections. When he donated millions, it didn't touch his heart. It was just a transaction. Money left. Reputation grew. All fair, all correct, but empty. Incredibly empty. Like that golden cage where he lived. But this girl gave everything she had, not for reputation, not for taxes, simply because it was right. So human. Her coins were worth infinitely more than his millions, because they were real. Living, filled with meaning. Alexander understood. He was rich in money, but poor in soul. He owned everything, but had nothing. His accounts were full, his heart empty. He was successful by all standards, but deeply unhappy. This thought didn't frighten him, it liberated him, because recognizing the problem is the first step to solving it. He, used to solving the most complex tasks, received a new one. The most important one: find his true self, the one hiding under layers of cynicism and arrogance. The following days passed in a fog. Alexander couldn't think about anything else. Meetings passed by. Reports didn't matter. Deals seemed meaningless. He saw only those coins, heard only the child's voice, felt only shame, but a different shame now. Not the shame of that moment in the supermarket. Shame for his whole life, for how he treated people, for his arrogance, for his confidence in his own superiority, for building walls instead of bridges, for hoarding money instead of giving kindness. He began to see, really see, the people around him. The cleaning lady who worked in his office for 20 years, he didn't know her name. The driver who drove him for 5 years, he didn't know if he had a family. The secretary who solved his problems daily, he knew nothing about her life. They were functions, not people. Cogs in the mechanism of his success. He used them, paid them, considered it enough. But it wasn't enough, not at all. Because money doesn't replace respect. Salary doesn't replace recognition. Alexander began to change, slowly, gradually. He started talking to people, asking about their lives, taking interest in their problems. At first it was awkward, strange. People looked with suspicion. What does he want? What's the benefit? But he continued, learning anew, learning to be human, not a function, not a position, not a bank account, just a person who can make mistakes, feel, empathize, help, not for profit, but for the sake of helping itself. He found that girl through a private detective, learned her story, single mother, 2 jobs, rented apartment in a bad neighborhood. The girl went to a school where there weren't enough textbooks, dreamed of becoming a doctor, but there was no money for education, not even for normal food. Alexander could simply give them money, $1 million, 2, solve all problems at once. But he understood that would be about money again. Another transaction. He wanted more. He wanted to be part of their lives, not a benefactor, a friend. He started slowly, anonymously paid rent for a year, got the mother a better job, arranged a scholarship for the girl, but it wasn't enough. He wanted to give something more important than money, his time, his attention, himself. He became a volunteer at their school, helped with lessons, repaired furniture, painted walls. His hands, used only to signing documents, learned to hold a hammer. His suits changed to jeans, his office to a classroom. People from his former life didn't understand. Partners shook their heads. Friends turned away. He was losing connections, losing opportunities, losing money. But for the first time in his life, he didn't feel loss. He felt gain. He gained what he never had, real relationships, based not on benefit but on sincerity, on mutual care. Children at school ran to him, not because he was rich, but because he was there, listened, helped, believed in them. The girl who gave him the coins became his teacher, not him to her, she to him. She showed what it means to be truly rich, rich in heart, rich in kindness, rich in the ability to share, even when you have almost nothing. Alexander created a foundation, not for show, but for action. He invested not just money, himself, his time, his energy, his soul. He built schools, libraries, help centers. But most importantly, he built relationships, bridges between people. His fortune decreased, his accounts thinned, his assets shrank, but he felt richer than ever because his life filled with meaning. Every day mattered. Every action changed someone's world. Every smile of gratitude was worth millions. He remembered that moment in the supermarket, now without shame, with gratitude. That moment destroyed his golden cage, the cage of arrogance, the cage of isolation, the cage of false values. He himself opened the door from that cage, stepped into the real world. The world of people, the world of feelings, the world of meaning. Loneliness disappeared. He was surrounded by people, but now they weren't functions, not contacts, not useful connections. They were friends, real ones, who valued him not for money, but for himself, for his kindness, for his openness, for his humanity. He understood the main thing. True wealth isn't measured by numbers. It's measured by smiles, by gratitude, by the changes you bring to others' lives. By moments when you make the world a little better, not because you must, because you want to. Those coins he kept in a frame on his desk next to a photo of the girl. A reminder of who he was, who he became, who he wants to remain. A reminder that the most valuable gifts come from the most unexpected people, in the most unexpected moments. Alexander sat in that same school, helping children with math. The girl, now a teenager, sat nearby, preparing for exams, dreaming of medical school. Her dream was close, thanks to the scholarship, thanks to support, thanks to someone believing. He looked at her, smiled. She smiled back, without words. They both knew. That moment in the supermarket changed both their lives. She gave coins, received a future. He received coins, found himself. A fair exchange, the fairest in his life. Deep peace filled him. Not the peace of wealth, not the peace of success. The peace of a person who found his place, his purpose, his meaning. He was truly rich, for the first time in his life. Truly. Her coins were worth more than all my billions. Sometimes, to find yourself, you need to lose everything. And sometimes it's enough to see the world through a child's eyes. True wealth is the ability to give what you have for those who have nothing, but most importantly, to give what is valuable to you, yourself, your time, your heart. yourself.